Today, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part? There's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Live from downtown Lansing, you're listening to The Spartan Beat with your hosts, Corey Robinson and Justin Thin.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Spartan Beat. I'm Justin Thin. I'm here with my co-host, Corey Robinson. We work for the 24/7 Sports Michigan State site. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you go ahead and do so. So, Corey, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Just ready to get to Friday so we can get some actual football going.
Yeah, definitely. So, since it's game week, it's finally time to look into a singular opponent here and kind of narrow the focus. And we're not doing a guest this time because we're just going to have a lot to talk about with Northwestern and the start of the season and 2023 recruits being able to be contacted first by the staff today, and Alan Haller being the AD. So just tons of content to get to today. We're going to go ahead and actually start off with a mailbag that we gave you guys a chance to post on the Shaw Lane VIP board and on Twitter as well. So I guess we'll dive right in here and go through some of the things that were posted on the message board first. The first question is, surprisingly, someone asked, who's the starting quarterback? Did not expect that to be a question. So I guess I will go along with Mel's stance here and say you'll find out Friday. But I guess, Corey, do we kind of want to talk about, like, regardless of who it is, like what we would want to see, if like for each guy, like hypothetically for whoever's quarterback, who we would, what we would kind of want to see from the offense?
Yeah, that works out, and hopefully, I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen before game time, but maybe I'll drop the draft of who the quarterback is, like right before game time when ESPN announces it, so you guys can read that to kill time because you won't have anything better to do.
Right. All right, so let's see. Who do we want to go with? Because I'm sure people will read into this as well. So, actually,
I might as well go with Thorne since he was here longer. So,
fair enough.
We'll go with the grizzled veteran sophomore.
Right. Okay, so I won't flip the coin. We'll go with that rationale instead. So, so personally for me, I like we were saying kind of last episode with Steven, the mobility is just a huge difference between the two quarterbacks. So I guess we could really dive into this topic for a while, but we'll just keep it surface level. And I'd say that if Thorne was the quarterback, I would like to see some option plays mixed in. I don't know what the right mix would be, but that's like every 7-8 plays I would even kind of have an option in there, maybe even a triple option since we have so many running backs on the depth chart here. So that's what I would want to see. I'd want to see them use his mobility, especially since if he would be the starter, they wouldn't have to worry about keeping him in bubble wrap since they would have a good backup behind him in that scenario. And I would just want to actually maximize his mobility and see some read option and maybe see some split backs. What about you, Corey?
Yeah, mine's kind of similar, I think, with him. Like you mentioned, his legs is probably the biggest difference between the two quarterbacks is Thorne's ability to extend plays, get out of the pocket, and actually make designed runs with his legs or run option, as you mentioned. So I think that opens up the RPO more, where obviously you're not going to run that with Russo just because there's no threat of him really running. And then I think beyond that, if we're just going to talk about passing and stuff, I think Thorne is maybe a little more decisive. He gets the ball out quicker from what we've seen out of him, which is still obviously, not a ton. He played in 4 games, started 1. And then he's got some accuracy. So, I mean, he might be more apt to taking those mid-level throws or some underneath stuff. But he's going to, as long as you keep moving the chains, and then that creates, completions, you can start playing with pace, which we see when we watch them practice. So I think that's what he would bring if that's the avenue they went with, is just maybe a little more a diverse attack of how you can go at a defense.
Right, and I'll just let you go ahead and start with what you want to see out of Russo, because I feel like we're going to have the same thing again, and I don't want to take it again.
Yeah, well, Russo, he's got the big arm.
Right.
He can challenge a defense vertically, obviously. Michigan State's got the wide receivers to do that with Naylor and Reed as the top 2, but then, I mean, you look at some of the big guys that they have, Christian Fitzpatrick, the transfer, where I don't know what he comes in at on the depth chart, like what they have him listed at, but he looks like he's damn near 6'6", and he's a thick-bodied guy. Keon Coleman, he's all of 6'4", and a thick-body guy. So, I mean, you got guys that can go up and get it, and then Malik Carr and kind of that hybrid tight end if he's healthy and ready to roll. So I think with him, he could take advantage of a lot of those weapons deep. And then, obviously, he has a lot of the experience, so he's not going to be rattled or nervous in any of the road games or stuff like that, because he's been through all those battles at Temple.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like you said, I would just throw it deep more than we've seen any MSU quarterback throw deep in the last few years, and I would take a lot of advantage of that arm that he has. Definitely. Since he doesn't have the mobility, the offense would be less dynamic, but that's what you would hope to kind of trade off for being able to get more yards per play, hopefully with longer throws. Let's see. Somebody asked, who are some remaining realistic targets for 2022? Somebody else also asked later in the thread, what is the ideal way for the class to end? So I guess we can kind of group those together. So we can talk about who are the guys that are just on the board, I guess, and obviously landing them would be ideal. So let's just go ahead and down that road. Corey, what do you have there?
The obvious name to start off with, I guess I'll take the easy one right off the bat, is Dylan Tatum out of West Bloomfield.
Right.
You and Alan and Steven and Will Fong, Sean, pretty much everybody in America went ahead and put Michigan State crystal balls in for him last week, or prior to his football game, sometime last week, maybe a week ago. Michigan State likes him as a safety. Maybe you could play in the box too, but then they also haven't closed the door of him playing some offense. He's just a versatile athlete. I think obviously he's the name that everybody knows about. That's the most likely at this point that you could say, yeah, that guy's probably got a good shot of being here. As confidently as you can say something in his type of recruitment, but Michigan State's in a good spot there.
Yeah.
Keontae Goodwin, the Kentucky commit. Michigan State's going to have him as an official visit. He's still talking a ton with the Michigan State coaches, Mel Tucker, and then Cap, the offensive line coach. They're in quite constant contact, even more than they were even when he was uncommitted. So, I mean, that's a positive. And what Michigan State sells to him is probably similar to what Kentucky has, is that he can come in and kind of be the man or the face, where if he went to a school like Alabama and Ohio State, who is the other two teams in it for him, he's just another guy. Like, obviously, he's another guy that's much bigger than all those other guys, but at Michigan State or Kentucky, he's kind of the face, and he kind of likes what Mel Tucker is doing up here, and he thinks 2 years from I guess 2 years from now, he thinks that they would be back to winning the Big Ten or at least competing with Ohio State. So he's got a lot of confidence in what the coaches are doing up here. So that's definitely another name to keep an eye on. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean,
the defensive end. Yeah, the defensive end that was offered out west. I know they're going to be going after him hard. Do you recall the name off the top of your head?
No, I've been so focused on the 23s today that my brain is fried on the non-obvious 22s. But yeah, there's I think there's him, and then I think there's another defensive end. But obviously defensive end. So I guess rather than a name, we'll say a position. Defensive end, they still need to add 2, in my opinion, to the class. So I think they offered the West Coast guy you're talking about recently, and then they offered another kid pretty recently too at 22. So defensive end would be 2 spots in my mind. So that puts you at 4. And then I guess, I mean, they're not taking a running back. They're set at quarterback. They want the one more offensive tackle, which we talked about with Goodwin potentially being it. Tight ends done. I don't think they would take a wide receiver unless somebody insanely elite just got excited about the offense this year and wanted to join it. But yeah, so I don't know. I think there might not even be 5 spots, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is like there's not that many spots left, which is also probably why you'll see the ranking spot, the ranking that Michigan State has in right now, that might kind of not be in the top 20s as the year goes on, because they've gotten a lot of commitments already, while other schools are not in the middle of so much momentum as Michigan State was in back in July. So yeah, there's not that much left in 2022, but so out of the 2 questions that I grouped together there, I guess the dream scenario would be getting the guys that Corey mentioned, and then in terms of realistic candidates, I would kind of make the distinction that there are guys like Michael Williams and Jeremiah Caldwell that are realistic in terms of if MSU wants them, they could land them. But right now they have to prove it kind of on the football field. So those are some other guys as well. But yeah, so that is that question. Let's see. So we have someone that wants to know, what are the details available in regards to Saeed Khalif's role and the impact he's having? So yeah, I mean, the first thing that I would say is, like Darian was mentioning, and like Curtis Daniel was mentioning also on our show, he was playing a big role in the Spartan.con's origins, in the planning and integrating the alumni. So that right there alone shows you that he goes beyond his job description of scouting and recruiting, which I guess is what most of his job is, to answer the question. But he's just trying to find ways to revolutionize the program, kind of. And if you remember his article from The Athletic, that was where Wisconsin wasn't kind of supporting him, is when he was trying to come up with these out of the box ideas and like set the trend and kind of breathe fresh air into the program. And at Michigan State, he's only been here a couple months, but he had that the plan where he wanted to have a huge recruiting event, and that he was able to capitalize on that and reach out to the alumni and do all that. So anything you want to add there, Corey?
Yeah, I can add to him. That name on the West Coast, because it was bugging me, it's Devin Tompkins out of California, Stockton, California. But as far as Saeed goes, he's kind of, I don't know, for the people that are familiar with the old recruiting staff, not that he's been here this long, but Jeff Martson, where he kind of was the chief of staff, where he oversaw the entire department as far as the recruiting people, all the off-field coaches, all of that, kind of coordinates events, stuff like that. He takes on that role, but then he also does a little bit more like, I guess it would be Scott Aligo, where he has a lot more, I guess he's got a lot more hands-on in recruiting, where he actually goes out and talks to the kids and the families and the coaches. So I guess the best thing is like he would be like Martson, but with recruiting added into his job detail, where he spends a lot of time with that. And He's a guy that's familiar with this area and then Georgia, so he's been a really valuable piece to what Mel Tucker's trying to do. The two of them have a very common bond on how they envision things, which I don't know if anybody was able to read the article with The Athletic that he did with a Wisconsin reporter after leaving. That wasn't the case with Paul Chryst in Wisconsin, where he was more reserved and was afraid to kind of get out of his comfort zone, where Mel Tucker's always trying to push the envelope to get better at recruiting and make it more enticing for people. So he's been a huge hire, and same with Jensen Gebhardt. He gets a lot of credit. I mean, I think every kid that tweeted out
When you get Xfinity Internet, Flex is included free, and finding what to watch on TV is now as easy as popcorn. This is a way better way to watch.
Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to get a great offer on internet and add Flex for free. Restrictions apply.
A photo today or an edit from Michigan State in 23, I'd say 90% of them tagged him in it. So, I mean, that talks about the work he's putting in under Saeed as well. Yeah.
Jensen's only been here a couple months, but he is doing a ton of work, and he's just I don't know exactly the capacity that they plan to replace Lisa and like what kind of job titles have been shuffled around, but it seems like he has taken a huge role in a lot of the reaching out to recruits and kind of being the liaison that you see them like tag on Twitter. But yeah, he's done a great job. So moving on to the next question, and I guess we'll kind of try to speed it up here and keep the pace up. So the next is, what younger guys have been impressing in camp beyond Tank Brown? I guess for me, the ones that would come up right away are obviously Keon Coleman, who still needs some work in terms of the football side of things, like finding the soft spot between zones, breaking off routes, those kind of things. But the athleticism is there. Who else do you have, Corey?
Charles Brantley. Yeah, he's doing really well at cornerback out of Florida.
And then Cal Halliday, you were just telling me about.
Yeah, he's had a huge camp. We saw at the open practice, I guess we call it, when they had to meet the Spartans. He was actually running the first team. So I think he's somebody that you need to keep an eye out for, where he's just a really tough kid, really strong, smart football player, moves really well. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Antoine Simmons, where the only knock is maybe that he's not the biggest. They have him listed at 6'1" and like 230, 235. I don't know that he's actually 6'1", but he's kind of in that mold. I think he's going to be someone that maybe a lot of people aren't thinking about that is going to play a major role this fall.
Yeah. So the other thing is, so like a lot of freshmen won't need to play this year. So I wouldn't expect more than maybe 3 to 5 freshmen on the travel roster.
And then the long snapper, Hank Pepper, I feel pretty good about him playing it. So I guess you can add him to the list of the young guys.
The 3 freshmen I would say that for sure would be on the travel roster would be Keon, Charles, and Hank Pepper, because Hank I would expect to start at long snapper because I believe he's the only scholarship one on the roster.
And not that he'll play, but I guess a guy that will throw his name in is Derek Harmon, the big defensive tackle. He's doing really well in camp as well.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, a lot of the freshmen won't really need to play this year, we also Cal Halliday's not a freshman, but he's a young guy that might even be a redshirt
freshman, yeah. Right. So, I mean, if we start looking at some of those guys, he would definitely be a name. Yeah. And then, I mean, I guess Montori Foster.
True.
And Terry Lockett are some other guys. And, I mean, honestly, even the transfer, Fitzpatrick, I mean, a lot of those transfers are really young guys that have 4 years of eligibility left due to COVID or whatever coming in early. Right. So I mean, they got a lot of youth on the team. I think it's 40 guys are underclassmen.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So the other question here is, Our punter situation concerns me. 2 questions. Has Behringer improved, and do you think we can expect a punter in the 2022 class?
He got a scholarship today, so I guess that probably answers our question.
Yep.
And so I think, he's improved. He actually, I think he won Special Teams Player of the Week a couple times last year. It's just the consistency that he lacked. So if he gets the consistency down, that's not something that you can't foresee happening, because he was good most of the times. It's just that he had a couple games that he was bad, and you can't have that. And
some long punts and some short punts that kind of had the average settle in between. So consistency, you're right. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think as far as the scholarship goes, I think it depends on what he looks like this year, because I heard that they could actually get another year out of him if they needed to. So I guess that's to be determined, and that's easy to do because a lot of the punters are still out there, the top punters, so that's not a big deal. You can just go down to Australia and grab one if you needed to. Yeah.
So, Behringer looks like he's improved. And for the second part of the question about the spot in 2022, that's a TBD. Let's see. Who's a player that you thought was definitely going to MSU but did not end up going to MSU? I guess I'll. Okay, so
you
go ahead. Okay, so for me, it's Mekhi Bayor, the linebacker from New Jersey, just because of the fact that the source that we got the information from that he was going to commit to Michigan State seemed to be someone that was very direct and in contact with him. And then I guess at some point he just didn't even take a visit, and that kind of went not Michigan State's direction. But who do you have, Corey?
I go back a little bit further than him, but he's definitely one of those ones that I blacked out of my memory just because of it being so weird at the end. But for me, it was Ambry Thomas, who went to Michigan. Like he was definitely going to Michigan State for a very long time. He's a silent commit, as they called him, for quite a while. And then someone that Justin probably saw a lot of, KJ Hamler. Those two, for me, like those guys were going to come here, and then they didn't because of some of the off-the-field issues. But those were the two that I always wondered what would those guys look like had they been here, where obviously Hamler had a great career, but how much would Michigan State's offense be more diverse had they had a weapon like that? Because they haven't had that since Keyshawn Martin. And then obviously Ambry, I believe he's in the NFL, but he didn't have the career at Michigan or get the preparation at Michigan that I think he would have under D'Antonio and all of them. Yeah.
Then another question kind of along those lines is favorite and most entertaining interaction with a recruit. This one, I tried to think about it, and I don't have a great answer, even though I really liked the question. Because you don't really recall any interactions where it's like entertaining with a recruit, right? Like it's mostly just business for the most part. I know talking to Tyrell anytime we see him in person, that's always fun.
Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, just last time we were at Sound Mind, Sound Body, we were both walking away, and Tyrell just yelled and like caught up to us and talked with him for like 20, 30 minutes, but not really any particular conversation comes to mind that was entertaining or anything like that. But
at the
go ahead.
Spring game, I guess, that was totally unrelated, but when we were next to a lot of the 21 guys, and they saw my tattoo and joked about me spending big money on tattoos instead of getting the cheap ones. Like caught me off guard, but usually, like you said, it's usually business with them, and they joke around, but it's not anything too crazy outside of just joking about football or other people or something, messing with each other, talking about who's the better basketball player. Like I think they're honestly, a lot of those guys are more competitive about who the better basketball player was than when they are on the football field. Yeah, yep, definitely. And then I know just like a guy that's always like fun to talk to in the current class is like Chase Carter. I know we talked to him just on the side. So that's a guy that also is just an engaging dude to just have some conversations with. Let's see.
looking forward to 2023, who are some kids that really shine as targets regardless of stars? So here we'll just kind of list them and not really analyze them because time is running low. But Corey, what are just some names on the top of your head?
Top of my head, there's Jonathan Slack, Dante Moore, Cole Dellinger, let's see, Dylan Senda, let's see, Trevor Carter, the linebacker out of Ohio.
Yeah.
His coach, being
Trayvon.
Trayvon Pendleton. I know they like him a lot. Let's see. I'm trying to think of who else is really out there. Jalen Thompson. That's a name everybody's pretty familiar with.
Yep.
Trevor Lauk, the offensive lineman. And then Olin, something, I can't say his last name. He's out in the East Coast. He's a European guy that came over to America a couple of years ago. I think he's going to be a big name on the recruiting circuit that Michigan State's in pretty good with.
Definitely. And then I know there are guys, Caleb Herring. He's like a top 150 kind of guy, I want to say. Marco Lanes, obviously Dante Moore is probably ahead in that regard on the quarterback board right now, but Marco is a top 200 quarterback, I want to say. Running back, it hasn't really narrowed down yet, so we don't want to single out one name or the other, but obviously Cedric Irvin, if he starts to reciprocate some interest at a little higher level, that would be a guy that's at the top of Michigan State's board. Then there's Washington down at Venice in Florida.
Elliot Washington. Yeah, that's definitely one that I would keep an eye on.
Yeah. So
then Zachariah Branch, the Bishop Gorman wide receiver that got offered today. All of those West Coast guys, Hauser, Ma, and Jalen Naylor. Everybody's already trying to get him here, so that could be one. And I mean, he's listed at 5'9", and with Tucker's size limits, you can tell that kid can absolutely has the juice.
Yeah. And then another guy I would say is offensive tackle Ryan Coretta from Columbus, Ohio. I think Notre Dame could take the lead if they ever offer, but right now I believe Alan was telling us a few months ago that Michigan State seems to be in a great spot there if Notre Dame does stay out of it, and it seems like they might. So we'll see there too as well. But
Brendan Parachek out of Dexter, the tight end.
Absolutely. Great prospect there.
And then Miles McVay. There's a lot of names right now just because, I mean, today, September 1st, was the first time that it's really getting going. So a lot of it's so fluid right now. So you're going to see a lot of names that we haven't talked about now that the coaches are able to reach out first. You're going to see a lot of names pop up and a lot of names disappear.
And the windows are just so wide at some of these position groups. Like I know, like Coach Cap and Coach Piegler have just tons of targets right now, and that won't be the case in a few months. So that'll make it easier as time goes on. So now we're going to move over to some of the Twitter questions here. Let's see. So Will Hunter asked, does the QB share his name with a very famous movie director? So he's asking if the starting quarterback is Anthony Russo, because there is a movie director who I believe makes Marvel movies whose name's Anthony Russo. That is a question that we will defer to Mel Tucker's philosophy and unfortunately say that you have to wait until Friday. Let's see. What does a successful offense rank? Is it top 50 for this team? So that's asked by Odell Brettum Jr. Brett, obviously MSU Twitter's certified hype man. I think he's kind of asking is like, for this team to be successful, where does the offense need to rank?
I just think they need to. I guess I don't really look at the rankings a lot, so I don't know what a top 50 offense is. So I'll just say they need to be the strength of this team, I think. I don't think that the defense shouldn't be bad, but it's not where it needs to be yet because they don't have edge rushers. So for me, they've got to be able to control the line of scrimmage. They got to control the clock, and they got to be able to just hit those big plays when you need to and get guys out in space. So, I mean, to me, it's just they got to be the strength of the team whatever that is. I mean, you got to get, if you put points a game, I mean, you got to average close to 30, I think.
Right. And last season, they didn't even eclipse 30 a single time. So averaging 30, I think, would be a good step up, and that would probably be good enough to go bowling, I would kind of guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we have a question saying, if you could pick one freshman to see playing time first, who would it be? I know this is kind of cheating, but Hank Pepper would be the guess.
Yeah, I feel good about it. Although Mo wouldn't even give that up when he was talking about his depth chart, but I would guess
that was
he would
funny.
be.
The guy that was asking the question said, "Mel, can you talk about the long snapper position without messing up everything for Friday?" And Mel goes, "Without messing everything up, maybe." And then still gave two guys because he still felt like that was going to be too revealing. But yeah. So.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, and what do we call? Are we saying true freshman or just freshman?
I'm assuming the person means true freshman, just because that's kind of usually.
Yeah, I think Keon Coleman or Charles Brantley are the two easy names if you're going by skill positions and not the snapper, but which is also very important.
Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
I'm gonna die. Chad could already be dead, or either he was smart and didn't come down anyways.
So at a quick glance, when I was turning off the light, I saw this thing in my kitchen, and it was kind of peeping out over to me.
Question is, name something that everyone knows the size of on their body.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in head first, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures.
I was like, oh, right. That would be a really bad way to tell somebody that their brother died.
I swear this happened in slow motion. The champagne flute fell into the lap of Halle Berry, completely drenching her.
Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It can happen so easily. You're out with your friends or coworkers, you're putting back a few drinks, a few becomes a few too many. It's time to go, and for a moment, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you're a good driver. You live nearby. You can make it home okay. What are the odds you'll get pulled over? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? You lose your license. You lose your job. You total your car. You kill someone. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's. Forever. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. Drive sober or get pulled over.
I think both of those guys might see a snapper or two or three in the Northwestern game. They'll probably try to mix up wide receiver 3 quite often, just to kind of see if anyone can emerge. And then if Northwestern goes with any 4 or 5 wide receiver sets, that would obviously open the door for Brantley to sneak in there. So I think that's kind of likely that you might see those guys in that game. What's a song you'd replace Thunderstruck with for entrance music? I know I have one right away. Just because of how effective it was for the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl, and just how it was their song for the whole playoff run, and just how it felt to like watch them come out at Hard Rock Stadium with that song in the background. And that's Dreams and Nightmares, Meek Mill. I don't think any of the people out there that are not Rat fans would know it unless they're Eagles fans, but that's the song that I would say for sure.
Yeah, that's one of my go-tos on my way into work to get me through the day. So yeah, I think that would be a lot better. I think that's something that's needed to be updated since 1982 or whatever they picked that song in. Yeah, like that's probably time to get something that the students and players actually can get hyped about. So yeah, that's a good choice for me too.
Yeah. Spartan Dog 97 asks, what does the top of the board look like at 2023? Asking what positions are they looking to hit the hardest. I would say right now that's not going to be clear until they kind of see which positions are lagging behind during the season, where there might be attrition and things like that. I think right now they're trying to just hit all of them pretty hard. But I guess one thing I would say is running back would be harder than most, since they don't plan to take one in 2022.
Yeah, defensive end I would put
That's
there.
True.
Just because they still need to get game changers there, and then Mel Tucker's never not going to make defensive back a priority.
Right.
So I would say like you said, running back,
Yeah.
defensive end, and defensive backs
Yeah.
would be the main focus off the top of my head.
Yeah, and obviously they will take a quarterback in every
Every
single class, but I'm assuming that they're really, really sold on Hauser, so they're probably going to try to be kind of maybe take a very, very picky position in terms of quarterbacks and maybe not have to cast as wide of a net. Kind of maybe like how Piegler did it in the current 2022 class, but maybe without the option of just not taking one at the end. That might be the one difference there, but let's see. At this point in camp, being that one guy has not separated from himself in the quarterback battle, are they going to pick the guy based on whoever can give them the final record and help them win the most at the end? So that's by Dougie Tutter.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily accurate, I guess. Like, what he's saying publicly and what they know behind is different, I guess, would be my best answer. Like, they've known who the guy is. Since,
right. So let me rephrase his question to say, because I know this is a philosophy that people have debated back and forth, is should they pick somebody with the intention of the long-term benefit of the program versus just if one guy can help them win more games, but not. So basically, Russo is better. In this debate, Russo is thought of as better for the short term, like quick wins and losses record, and Thorne was thought of by people as he needs development. If it's even close, go with him. But like I had always maintained, is you pick the guy who gets you bowl eligible this year, and nothing else matters. And I'm pretty sure Mel had the same philosophy. So if Thorne does happen to be the starting quarterback on Friday, that means he was better, and it's not about development. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think Mel wants to win now. He obviously you recruit to set up the future. You do all that other stuff to set up the future, but the best way to set up the future is to win football games, because then that gets people's attention. So whoever it is, whether it's Russo, Thorne, or anybody else on the roster, I guess. He's going to pick who he feels can win on Friday and then the next Saturday and that, because he wants to win and he wants to be able to sell the brand as a winner.
Right. Next question is, can you talk about 2022 recruiting? They haven't put out many offers. Trout's going to Virginia, Shoot maybe to Duke. Where do they go from here? I'm not going to pretend like I am on board with the way that they have made offers in this class. I think Trout should have been offered earlier, but I guess to be fair, they were recruiting him really hard. But it was, I don't know, I would just offer him sooner. And I think they definitely should have offered more guys. I know the reason why they don't offer more guys is because Izzo doesn't want that to be a point of leverage for these kids to go ahead and just get tons of other offers and kind of just use Michigan State as a springboard. But I think at the end of the day, that should matter less than making sure you have enough good options. So I'm not on board with kind of how the recruiting was organized, like what the philosophy there was. And Trout went to Virginia. Jaden Shoot looks like Duke has a lead, but we'll have to see if he sticks to his plans of returning to Michigan State for a football game this fall. If he does, then I wouldn't count Michigan State out of that. They just offered a kid today, Jackson Kohler. He said he would hit me back after practice, so I'll get some quotes from him. He has a 5th official visit open, so hopefully Michigan State can get that. I know Braden Huff is a stretch 4 they like as well. So it's going to be hard to have this class be up to par with the average of last year's class, but I guess they still have some time, and they're still offering guys, but they might have to go to the portal, to be honest with you. That's kind of my answer, is they might have to go and get more guys from the portal than they were originally hoping. Or anything to add there?
I'll just go more general. I think I'm like what I've seen a lot of the fans talk about. Like, this wasn't new once they missed on these guys, that these things were kind of trending in that direction, and people are questioning where's the additional offers, and not even just the offers, just like the prioritizing of other people too. I think hopefully they learn from that out of this cycle and maybe cast a wider net next year and be more, like, I don't want to say not aggressive because it's not like they're not trying, but I think more proactive in their approach, maybe is the better word, just to maybe come with the times where you gotta change some things, because what kids wanted even 5 years ago to now is completely different. You saw it with the football program.
Yeah, because the issue here is not that the effort has fallen off, because like Tom, Izzo, and these guys are at all these games at the end here and like over the summer, and they're putting in as much effort as they've ever put in. The issue is just that some of these other coaches have offered earlier and just have like more goodwill built up with these kids due to them not being as reserved to put their opportunity out there to the kids. And you kind of hear that like when the kids talk about it, like behind the scenes and stuff. And I wonder if like the coaching staff is also getting that same feedback, or if they're not like privy to those kind of thoughts of the kids. But hopefully they kind of start to realize that that's kind of what some of the kids are thinking, and maybe change in the next year. But another question here saying, will MSU basketball do better in recruiting in 2023 than 2022? I'll just say a short answer of yes. I do like how many guys they've offered so far this early. I like who they've offered. Kids seem to be making visits already in 2023 at a higher clip than last cycle, obviously, because of COVID. So that short answer there is yes.
I guess too, that's a good point too. Sorry to jump in on you.
Yeah, no.
The COVID factor, maybe I'm not giving that enough credit. Because that's when Izzo really does his thing and really shows off that family vibe. So maybe I learned something on the show tonight by you saying that, and it kind of clicked in my head that like we almost take him for granted because he's been here for so long. But at the end of the day, what always made his recruitment is getting those guys on campus and around the players and the former players. So I guess
that's true.
I guess that's maybe something I didn't weigh heavily enough into the whole approach, where maybe he had that same approach that it's always worked for him, that he's always went with, but he didn't have the back pocket of bringing these kids on campus and getting them around.
So I guess then my counterpoint would be is if they were going to use the same approach that wasn't going to work as well during a pandemic as outside of a pandemic, they should have hedged their bets by offering more guys anyway. Yeah. So like I still think they should have offered more guys. But yes, that's a good point in their defense for sure. Who do you think will be the most impressive player on offense and defense this year?
And for football?
Michigan State football, yes.
I think offense, Kenneth Walker. That dude
agreed.
Just said. Like everything I've seen of the few little clips that they let out, it seems like he's always bouncing something outside or dragging someone. So I think he's probably the easy one. If I went with a secondary guy, it'd be Jaden Reed or Naylor. I like, for me personally, I think the offense is what's going to carry the team. Defensively, I'll go for a wild card, like Jalen Hunt, the defensive tackle. I know he's not going to put up eye-popping numbers being a defensive tackle, but I think he can control the middle of the line, which will allow you to cheat on the edges a little bit more. So I guess I'll go with him, where it's not going to be a numbers thing, but more of an impact thing.
Yeah, and a lot of the better defensive tackles in the NFL are kind of the same way. Guys like Fletcher Cox on the Eagles, they don't get the sacks. They don't get those kind of tackles for loss, but they eat up blocks, they eat up double teams, and the guys around them are the ones that succeed off of that. So definitely get what you're saying there. For me, same thing with Kenny Walker on offense. For defense, I want to say I kind of don't want to say Ronald Williams, just because we haven't seen anything, and that's kind of just more so going off of expectation instead of concrete proof. But he's kind of who I was leaning towards there. But maybe I'll go ahead and say Xavier Henderson should be a stable and proven commodity in the middle of the field. I'll say he'd probably be the most impressive guy in the first half of the season. And I'll say once Q Crouch gets some more coaching on how to properly be a linebacker, I'll say in the second half of the season he'll be the most impressive defensive guy there in the second half.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And Ronald Williams is the name I was kind of kicking around in my head too, so I don't think it's too far-fetched.
Right.
So I think he's good. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if you see maybe a Kari Willis senior season out of Xavier Henderson, where he just kind of, you got around Novak, you got in that little bit better shape, so now maybe you cover a little more ground, you're a little faster.
Right.
So I think he could be not that he hasn't been good. I think he could take it up to that next level that you really wanting to see as a senior.
Yeah. Okay, next question. We can keep this one short because we've talked about it a ton, but why all of a sudden is MSU the favorite to land Dylan Tatum? I would say they're not all of a sudden the favorite. So they used to be the favorite for most of Tatum's previous calendar year. Yeah, until they hired Bellamy. And then, Michigan was the favorite after that, strong favorite in April. And then since then, Michigan State has just been chipping away at the Bellamy effect there and just have consistently and gradually crawled back. And they've, I guess, kind of gotten over that hump recently for like the past month or two, I would say. And it was just eventually Allen and the guys just needed to get out there and just gather some feedback and kind of just keep their ear to the ground before they felt confident enough to flip over. But it wasn't like an overnight Michigan State taking the lead type thing. It was gradual. Anything else needed to be added there, Corey?
Yeah, but they talked a lot in the background. I mean, those picks almost changed months ago, but there's a lot of weirdness. We'll say that and leave it at that. Yeah. But I would say Michigan State's actually led the vast majority of the recruitment, where Michigan only really led
February
the Bellamary
through
factor.
June. Yeah, February through June, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. What would you define as a successful season for Mel Tucker? Could be record, could be specific games he has to win. Real quick, I'll just say making a bowl game and beating Michigan, and that's what I would need to see. And then maybe keeping it close against teams that are better, like Penn State and Ohio State. And those would be 3 benchmarks, like 3 different check boxes that I would have, and then maybe not having a Rutgers game or an Iowa game like last year.
Yeah, for me, I think a bowl game, that's 6 wins. I think that's a fair expectation or a benchmark, I guess. So there's that one that I agree with, and then I guess just like seeing like improvement and like being able to compete even though you're better physically than you were last year by a good amount, but you're still not necessarily where you need to be when you're playing Miami or Ohio State on the schedule, just as far as total athletes goes. So I mean, I guess maximizing what you have, which was something D'Antonio did a great job with, and then just kind of giving you hope for the future, where you're like starting to see, all right, the offensive line's blocking good, which means you're running the ball, which means the quarterback has time. So, I mean, I think this is someone or a fan base that's starving to have, it doesn't have to be Baylor, Oregon, prime offenses, Oklahoma, but like you want to see some excitement in the offense and some success there. And then just the defense being able to correct the mistakes they had last year with maybe assignments. So like to see them get the total bag out there on defense where they can switch a lot of stuff up depending on the game.
Yeah, definitely. So that is the end of the mailbag question. So let's see. Northwestern. So we kind of talked about Northwestern at length during last week on the scheduled preview, but let me hit at some bullet points that are kind of probably well known, but they're kind of really all you can say at this point, really, because they have a lot of unknown pieces too, so we can't really give that much in-depth of a look at them either. But key bullet points: running back 1, Cam Porter, is out for the year. So Evan Hall, I believe is his name. He had a really good game his freshman year, so he's capable back, but we'll see what he does there. Can't imagine he's better than Cam Porter though, so that is probably a positive development for Michigan State, even though you absolutely never want to see somebody hurt. So quarterback Hunter Johnson got QB1, and it was named publicly by Pat Fitzgerald. over a week ago. Hunter Johnson was not a very good quarterback the last time we saw him in 2019, but the narrative over there in Evanston is that the last year sitting behind Peyton Ramsey transformed the way he plays quarterback. So we'll see if that's true. Could be, could not be. We'll see. But that's kind of what the quarterback one battle kind of shaped up with. Let's see. They lost lots of production. Obviously, that's the number one bullet point when it comes to Northwestern. They're last in the FBS in returning production. That's kind of the biggest reason why I think Michigan State will win this game, is that fact alone, is you cannot replace about 70% of your production and beat a team that you lost to the previous year. But then again, Michigan State has lots of moving parts, lots of new guys. Even if I think they're more talented than Northwestern's new guys, you don't know how these guys will gel. You don't know the miscommunications in the back seven on the defense. You don't know passing routes might be on different pages. So you never know. You can never be too sure, and I don't expect a blowout, even though I might believe that the talent levels are on two pretty vastly different lengths. But Corey, anything you want to add about the big picture there? We can't really dive into too many X's and O's since you don't know how they'll line up and stuff. But
I think the big thing for me, or the big takeaway, is how you mentioned they lost a lot. And it's not only what they lost, it's where they lost it. They lost the really good tackle. They lost their running back to an injury. They lost Newsome, the cornerback, who I think was the best one in the Big Ten last year. You lost a couple defensive ends. I mean, so those are your spots that make up for a lot of things. If you have a corner shutting down half the field like Newsome, or if you have two edges coming off getting pressured, then you don't get to cover as far. And then obviously an offensive tackle that's a franchise type of tackle speaks for itself. So it's not even, everybody loses pieces. They lose key pieces at key areas, and that makes it tough. Plus, you're breaking in a new quarterback as well.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, I think they have a lot of their defensive backfield returning, other than Newsome, like you said. So they might have, they might have a lot of returning production there. And I know Brandon Joseph is a really good safety, but even if let's say their defensive backfield doesn't fall off too much, the fact of the matter is they ran it all over Northwestern last year, and that was when Connor Hayward was running back and not Kenny Walker. And Michigan State's offense line should be better this year. So even if you can't count on passing all over Northwestern, because let's say that them only losing one corner is not enough of a fall off, even though it was really good, there's still kind of no excuse for not running the ball all over them. So that's kind of what I take solace.
And I think that's what they want to do. I mean, obviously they're not just going to cloud of dust it, but Michigan State wants to establish the line of scrimmage and get that offensive line feeling good at saying, all right, we're pushing teams downfield this year. We're not getting pushed back. So I think you're going to see Michigan State come out with a purpose when trying to run the ball and control the clock. And, that just the more you have the ball, the better it usually works out.
Right, yeah. And then I guess I should kind of add the caveat, because I have called him a part of last year's team as a mistake too, and I know Corey just said that, but Rashawn Slater actually didn't play last year. I guess he opted out. Just Googled that real quick because I think I saw that on Twitter.
For some reason, I was thinking he was on for some reason.
Yeah, but either way, the rest of all the lost production still remains. The overall argument is still
the
sound.
Defense there. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I guess that really covers it there with Northwestern. Do you want to give a score prediction, or do we not want to do that?
I suck at score predictions, so
we can skip it then. Plus, we don't want to give anybody bad gambling advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I will say that the line has started at, I want to say 6.5, and I think now it's 3 points in favor of Northwestern, and part of that is Vegas bakes in a 3-point home field advantage, and they do it for every team without thinking about the fact that it won't be a home field advantage for Northwestern. So basically the line is even if you subtract the home field advantage there. So if that's something that's appealing to you, I would recommend looking into that. I guess the other thing that we should mention, the time went by really quickly. I guess the mailbag took twice as long as I thought, but So we might have to save the 2023 September 1st activity for later. But Alan Haller today was named the athletic director of Michigan State. What's your initial reaction?
I think that's as good as you could get, really. I mean, obviously, everybody knows about Jarmond at UCLA, but that was going to take a whole lot of things on the side to make that happen. Doubling the money. You got a huge buyout and all of that stuff. So with Allen, you're getting somebody that knows the culture, and people might be like, oh, well, is he experienced? I mean, he was a major role in Mel Tucker being here. He did a lot of the facility upgrade stuff. I mean, he's been doing a lot of this stuff for years at Michigan State. He knows what he's doing. He knows the landscape. He knows what he's up against, which is just as big. I mean, because you bring someone new in here and they think everything's going to go the way they want, and there's no like things that are going to trip them up or slow them down on the way. So I think his familiarity, he knows what it is. People know they can trust him. And I think, he's going to take the programs, the major programs, I guess, because that's what we focus on, and make them better than they've been, because we kind of spent a few years without an athletic director where Beekman did the greatest job that you could ask for in the situation, but now it's time to get back to having what you saw with Mark Hollis previously, where you're bringing in tons of money, you're putting tons of money back into the program. Like you, Steven, and I talked earlier, kind of getting some of those marquee type of matchup deals where you go out, hit the road and do some stuff. But I mean, he's going to bring unity. Like you saw how many of the former players like went to bat for him. So I mean, to me, I think at that end, I mean, it's another notch in Michigan State's belt of just showing how great they are at being in the forefront of diversity. Like you have a black athletic director. I think he's the sixth one. Black head coach in football. Like all of these things matter. So I think, they got the jobs because they're qualified, and not every university is comfortable doing that still, which is a shame.
Yeah. So, I think those are all great points, and I'll just sum it up in like bullet point format. Is he's a guy that is probably handled more of the fundraising than a lot of guys in the deputy role would have at other places. Like he was kind of leading that charge here recently in the last year or so. So he's a top tier fundraiser, I would say. He's a guy that obviously played a huge role in hiring Mel Tucker, one of the most instrumental roles, I would say, from the Michigan State standpoint.
I think second to me saying that he should have been the guy in June.
Yeah, you spoke it into existence, and then Haller just put the finishing touches on it afterwards.
With the interview.
And then let's see. Oh, he owns basically, like, it was his pet project, that facilities plan, that new football building. Like, he took ownership of that. He was the guy that not only went ahead and got that funding, but he was the brainchild of that operation. Like, that was all like his vision kind of being orchestrated there. Obviously he had lots of people helping him, tons of people, but like that was his project.
Yeah, and that's probably the best separation from Beekman and him is
right.
He knows what they need. He knows what the football program needs to compete. Where Beekman doesn't understand that because that's not where he's from, but what he did great was just kind of pull everything back together.
Right. Yeah. So key points is he can fundraise with the best of them. He can handle these special initiatives that are program changing, like a new football building. He hired Mel Tucker. I believe he's also on the search committee for the Coach D'Antonio's hiring. I don't know how huge a role he played there. Probably not as big as the Mel Tucker hiring, obviously, but those are all things that you would need from him in the athletic director role. Like he'll need to hire new coaches. He'll need to continue generating revenue. Like he's done these things that an AD would do. I guess really the only thing he hasn't done is like cut sports and like made those kind of tough decisions of firing people. Like That's really the only thing he hasn't done. But beyond that, like, he has a track record that a lot of guys wouldn't have if they've never been an AD. So when I hear people say, oh, he doesn't have experience because he doesn't have the title athletic director on his resume. Okay, yeah, but he's done the things that like you would need to do in the athletic director role, and he's kind of superseded the deputy role in recent years. And those that kind of know the landscape know that he was kind of doing more than he even needed to do recently. And I challenge people that kind of have an issue with this hire just because it's an internal hire to kind of look at what external candidates did you want and put their resume next to Alan Haller's and say, okay, so this person, yes, they have the title of athletic director here from some previous school, but what did they really do? Did they kind of just not even move the needle a little bit at like a certain ACC school? Or did they actually go ahead and do something revolutionary? If your answer is the second one, you're probably just talking about Martin Jarmond out of the pool of candidates, I thought. And like Corey said, his salary was $1.4 million. Alan Haller's salary today was revealed to be $800,000. You would be paying double for Martin Jarmond. Is he double the candidate? I don't know about that. So really, I don't see how someone could have an issue with this hire while also analyzing all the other options out there and putting them side by side. And if you're just going to gravitate to the fact that he didn't have an athletic director post before this, then I think you're kind of looking past the actual points of what projects did they do, what initiatives did they run, what were their daily responsibilities, and that's kind of what I would say there. Corey, anything to add on that?
Yeah, just, I mean, I don't think if people are saying that he didn't have the experience, they probably just don't fully understand how much he actually was responsible for, especially after Hollis stepped down. And it wasn't just football and basketball, it was all the small programs where you saw, or the non-revenue, I guess I don't want to insult them calling them small programs,
right,
where you saw a lot of those coaches and players reach out to, which obviously shows that, you know, he was also there for them and making sure they had what they needed and everything was going as smooth as possible.
Yeah, and then we just had one question come in that I kind of like, and that is, can you name an unsung hero on offense and defense that isn't getting enough hype right now but will make a big difference in how good MSU is this year? Right away, I thought of on offense, Jarrett Horst. Left tackles never get enough attention, and I think he'd be a guy that fits that box. And free safety, Angelo Gross. I think you're going to see a huge advantage from Michigan State having Trey Person back there next to Xavier Henderson to now having Angelo Gross there. So I think he might be a good X factor there.
Yeah, those both are names I would pick too, where they probably don't get as much credit as they need.
Yep. So yeah, I guess that kind of covers all of the developments from today with Haller. That covers the Northwestern game. A lot of good mailbag participation. Hopefully the answers were satisfactory. But, yeah, so let's see what happens here next in 2 days against Northwestern. And we'll see you next week.
When you get Xfinity Internet, Flex is included free, and finding what to watch on TV is now as easy as popcorn. This is a way better way to watch.
Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today to get a great offer on internet and add Flex for free. Restrictions apply.
Our cars will break down, and when they do, the repair bill can be devastating. Not anymore. You need Protect My Car. Whether it's a car, truck, or SUV, you can stop paying expensive repair bills. Call Protect My Car at 800-392-8795 now to see if you could qualify. Just tell us the make and model and get an instant quote right over the phone and get coverage today. For cars between 2008 and newer, expensive repairs for the engine, transmission, and much more can become a thing of the past. Call Protect My Car at 800-392-8795 now before your next repair bill hits. For total protection of your car, truck, or SUV and less repair bills, plus free oil changes, free tire rotations, and free roadside assistance. Just call 800-392-8795 now. Protect your car and your wallet. Call 800-392-8795. Paid for by Protect My Car. Restrictions may apply. Plans and costs for coverage may vary.